Well, hi, my name is Jay Simala, and this is my story. I was raised in Carmel, Indiana, which is just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. And growing up, I was absolutely obsessed with sports. I think that I played organized basketball, baseball, football, taekwondo, tennis, swimming. I don't know, roller derby. I mean, there was a lot going on. It was really fun, but it was excessive. So eventually I narrowed things down and I focused on football and I became pretty good. And I remember in high school as a quarterback in football, throwing a touchdown pass to one of our running backs who did a wheel route down the left sideline. And as he was crossing into the end zone, I just remember putting up my hand in the air, like with a big number one. And looking back, I don't know if I was saying that our team was number one, or maybe more probably I was number one, but I was going down a path of an incredibly self-centered life. I mean, football was absolutely my God, not the God of the Bible. So eventually I accepted a scholarship to play football at Miami of Ohio, and this is where my pride set in. Even though I was almost immediately moved up to second string, I thought it was incredibly lame to play in front of 25 or 30,000 people. I wanted to play in front of like 80,000 people. So I decided to transfer, and eventually I did transfer to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. But before I did that, there was an Athletes in Action staff member named John Maurer, and he came into one of our football meetings at Miami of Ohio, and he asked if anybody wanted to get together and talk about spiritual things. And I thought, I'm an incredibly spiritual guy, so of course I'd like to talk to you. So we had a number of meetings, and very quickly he brought me to a choice. And my choice was, do I see Jesus for who he is and how he reveals himself, and do I trust him and follow him? Or do I continue down my incredibly self-centered path? And at the time, the choice was pretty easy because I was the Lord of my life. So I wanted to continue down that path. But the trouble was that I didn't have the courage to tell him that I didn't want to meet with him anymore. So one morning at our scheduled appointment time, he came by and he was knocking on the door. And after a while, I thought, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, I know how to get rid of this guy. So I did the incredibly mature thing. I just pretended I wasn't there, right? And he kept knocking. He knew what was going on. I knew what was going on as well, that he knew. And I would just lie there perfectly still, having a hard time breathing because I didn't want to make any noise. Well, eventually he left the dorm and I left school. So after I left Miami, there was an incredible turning point. I started going to first one and then another Athletes in Action summer camp. And it was at that point that I learned about the Christian life. I learned about singing to God and valuing him above all things, and reading God's word and praying and sharing my faith. And I just got a taste of community, but ultimately I got a taste of God himself. And I think that I just came to the end of my self-centered rope, and I decided that I didn't want to focus on myself anymore as the Lord of my own life. I wanted Jesus to be the Lord of my life, and I wanted to follow him forever. So what's interesting is that when I saw John next, it was at the copier of Trinity Evangelical Divinity School. I was in a Master of Divinity program, and I was preparing to be a pastor, and I was studying for a Hebrew exam. And I don't know, but after I told him my name, maybe he thought that he was looking at a ghost. But I was filled with incredible gratitude because he was just so very faithful in explaining God's word to me. One way this truth might relate to you is for those of you who are sharing your faith with people that are perhaps a little bit resistant. I have been a pastor in a number of different contexts. I currently serve as a church consultant, and I've been teaching in Christian colleges and universities for over 20 years. So you never know what God will do through you. So I would just say, keep going.